I feel that it is very important for the International AIDS Society to include disability issues in their agenda because disabled people are also human beings and they have rights just like anybody else. And even in the UN Convention, it is also stipulated that persons with disabilities have a right to a good health. So therefore, I feel that the International AIDS Society has to take a big role in ensuring that persons with disabilities are included. And one thing that we should know that there are 650 million persons with disabilities in the world. And I think you cannot do away with that big number of people, leaving them out of the development or leaving them out of the health program. So it is very important for us to be included in the HIV programs.
Nora, can you give us the first take, and you don't have to do it exhaustively, on how AIDS and disability are linked?
They are closely linked. In fact, every risk factor very familiar to people who work in AIDS are also risk factors that we see with the disability community. Poverty, stigma, exclusion, lack of access to schools, lack of ability to negotiate things like safer sex because of the people who are disabled simply have not the economic stature and the social, and until very recently, until May 13th, was it? When the convention was ratified, they didn't have the legal stature either in most countries to be able to claim their rights. These risk factors are also what you find with AIDS in terms of people at risk. So this is a particularly vulnerable group, and it's a group that we simply have left off the map. Why should the AIDS community be involved? It's really an issue of enlightened self-interest. We won't solve the AIDS crisis unless we include this 10% of the world's population, as Rachel said, 650 million people who are currently living with a disability and also at equal or significantly increased risk of becoming HIV positive.
Let's address I think one of the many elephants in the room. I think the reason that there's some urgency and there's some real passion coming from the disability community, which is breaking through at this conference, is because there's a feeling that the AIDS community globally is not paying attention. Yetnebersh, I want to ask you what you think is the level of awareness within the international AIDS community and why of disability issues and why it is that way.
The issue, the level of awareness of the HIV/AIDS community about disability, I can say is very loose. And but because nothing has been done in that area. I mean, some initiatives have been done, like the African campaign on HIV/AIDS and disability, and some national level things. But it hasn't been brought to the, to the spectrum of the international attitude. And I can see that. I can share you one instance which I have been asked that, how do blind people do sex? It was a funny question which I faced just 2 years ago. One student working her master's was posing this, and my answer to this question was, sex is the only moment at which everybody gets blind. Ovi.
Thank you. You can't top that. Washington.
Maybe in conclusion, for me, I do think the world has been singing of access to all, access to ARVs, access to treatment, universal access. You can't go on singing this universal access for all without inclusion of people with disabilities. I think it's a high time for us to achieve universal access. This 10% has to be involved. We need to be included in all the achievements, so that by 2010, as we are even moving on with our advocacy, you will have been very successful in the universal access for all.